most simple, straightforward 10-minute B3 organ tutorial you've ever had in your life. Let's do it. So whenever I play a live gig and I need a B3 organ, Goodwin is going to be the first guy I call to see if he is available. He has a fantastic ear for getting me that B3 classic rock organ sound, that style, which is very important. And I've always been curious the tips and tricks for people who can play piano or play keyboard, how we can take our skill set and transfer that over to B3 organ. Because for whatever reason, and Alan's going to talk about it, it takes a slightly different skill set when playing the B3 organ to get that sound that you're looking for versus just playing piano or pad sounds on a keyboard. And guess what? Today, Alan's going to give you a 10-minute crash course so that maybe members of your band or team or maybe yourself can get a start for playing that B3 organ and for getting some of those tones and those sounds. So let's dive right into it.
One of the biggest things I tell people that are new to organ is, even though it looks like a piano, it is not a piano. In the same way that bass guitar looks like a guitar, it is not a guitar. Yes, for all intents and purposes, it has some of the same elements. It has keys. It has, well, maybe that's the only similar thing. But guitar has strings, you know, but the reason they're different is not in their nature so much as the purpose they play, the role they play in this type of music, in any type of music really, but especially how we use them. A bass guitar, while it may operate in a similar way to a regular guitar, have the same features, slightly different range, it's way different in its functionality than a guitar. Sometimes they may play similar things, but often they're filling completely different frequency ranges more than just different octaves. You know, you could actually play the same octave note on a bass as a guitar and they would still be accomplishing different purposes in the mix because of the tone, because of the role they play, because of how they're crafted and their harmonics, everything else. The point is they're different instruments even though they look the same. Same with organ and piano. Piano is supposed to be a two-handed instrument, where I would argue that organ, at least in this genre, is more of a one-handed instrument. It's more the rock and roll approach to it than the gospel approach to it. There are times that two manuals is handy, like we have here, and even pedals and all that stuff. That's kind of beyond the scope of most stuff we do in CCM and rock and roll. I like to look at it as it's a right-hand instrument, just like an electric guitar is this side of the piano, where the bass guitar is that side of the piano. So on organ, I'm not trying to feel like I have to do this all the time like on a piano. I'm mainly focusing on what I'm adding to this range. With the left hand, what that frees me up to do is mainly three things. Drawbar control, which is the tonality of the instrument, something you don't have on piano. Some people think of it as an EQ. I don't think of it that way. I think of it as like an octave pedal, because that's what it literally is. This is an octave, that's another octave. These are other intervals, and so I'm literally trying to shape the sound with my left hand as I'm playing with my right hand. The other part of this is Leslie slow and fast switch. So the Leslie is the rotating speaker in the amplifier. So traditionally you'd have a Hammond B3 organ, and just like a guitar plugs into an amplifier, the organ plugs into an amplifier. It's called a Leslie, and it has a cone, a speaker in it, and a horn, kind of like regular loudspeakers. And there's a rotating functionality of these, and that rotation not only happens, but it also happens at different speeds. You have a slow speed, an off speed, and a fast speed. Hardly ever use stop mode for this music unless it's something weird. So I'm mainly just going between slow and fast. And then the third thing the left hand's used for. So drawbars, slow and fast Leslie. And the other thing is rolls and just staccato kind of rhythmic noises in addition to what's going on in my right hand. So with B3, you have what's called a waterfall key bed, where unlike a piano, there are no harsh edges on the sides or the front of it. The front of a piano keyboard key, it comes out and they're a little harsher, kind of like a countertop. And if you were to do this it would kind of hurt your palm after a while. These are semi-weighted, but they're also waterfall. It's a different mechanism, so you can do that all day long. It doesn't hurt. So 3 things with the left hand, 1 thing with the right hand. Now, to explain dynamics on a piano, the harder you play, the louder it is. It sounds different. So all your dynamics are in your hands and the velocity of your hands. Here, no matter how hard I hit it, it's the same sound on an organ. So if you just try to have organ without a pedal, you have no dynamic control besides your drawbars, which is not really meant for dynamics, it's meant for tonality. So instead we have a expression pedal. I don't use sustain on an organ, I use expression though, and this is vital because it's the only way the organ has life and can actually breathe. And in that is a part of the overdrive sound, just like a guitar. The more you turn the volume up on the amp, it gets louder, but also gets more overdriven. Same way with a B3 and Leslie situation. So, all that to say, that's the functionality. When I'm approaching parts, I'm thinking, how can organ glues the song together like no more. So it's kind of like a guitar, but it's even less rhythmic in a way that just kind of sits under there and has an energy to it. So you don't always need to be loud or complicated because of that role it plays. It just kind of glues everything together. Then there are moments that you want to stick out and have rhythmic things or crazy overdriven things, but you want to balance those 2 things. If all you're doing is riffing, then it's kind of the bag of tricks principle on any instrument. You lose, everything is, nothing is special. It's like if everybody bought a fast pass at Disney, nobody has a fast pass. It's that principle. You want to save those moments, and then the other moments you want to do, but if you only did, pad type sounds, then nobody would ever even know you're on B3. It would just sound like an organic pad. So you want to have moments of both and really fit the song, the moment, obviously the band, everything like that. So where I'll start normally is if I want a higher register, I'll start with this octave, leave these 2 off. This is actually a 5th anyway. And say like tonight we're in the key of D. And so boom, a D chord. And I'm like, okay, where are we going from there? That's a very basic sound. I have it on slow, I have it about halfway up. I have volume changes. I'm not gonna start all the way up because I want room to grow. Maybe we're at a verse and I decide I want it a little bit more complex of a sound, so I'll add an octave, maybe a 5th, just to give it a brighter sound. And I'll change some chords, maybe towards the end of that verse, Leslie fast to give it some energy, and maybe I'll grow in volume, and maybe to transition into the chorus, I'm going to do a roll up. So for example, verse, we're starting here, all right, it's about to get into the chorus, and then chorus, right? And then maybe it gets real bright. And goes back down. So one thing I meant to mention is on piano you have a sustain pedal. Here you don't have sustain pedal. If you ever try to use a sustain pedal on organ, you're doing it wrong. So you have to be real clever in how you position your fingers to make sure your next chord is easy to, so if I'm playing that and I want to hit this note next, I can't do that because there's a gap. So instead I'm going to even move my fingers around during the chord. It looks goofy, but it's part of B3 playing, so I can do that without a break. Or if you just get in a bind and you have a crazy change, like if I want to go here from there, then, well, I'm going to cover it up with my left hand, right? And slide, or maybe some drawbar instead of, right? So you got to think differently because you don't have a sustain pedal anymore. Trying to think
practice.
Yeah, you got to practice it, and it is still, you can do 2-note things, 3-note things, and it be plenty, because again, it's about those moments, it's about the glue, it's about the tone, and it's about the transitions. I'm not playing anything that crazy, you know? And occasionally if you want to grab a low note, it can be a nice way to end or have a pad below everything. And then you just gotta make sure you're within range of the Leslie switch here, or maybe grab a drawbar. It can get kind of crazy looking. And then so that's a good starting point. If you want a lower kind of tone, then I'll start with the first octave. And you hear it's literally just an octave lower. So your range is shifted on the organ, but you have more options. A good principle on drawbar too is sometimes you don't want to add, if you want just a one step up, then you add the nearby drawbars. And then you have options for brighter and later. Or if you want kind of a split, kind of hollow, almost Coldplay sound, then you skip some and add some of these higher ones. Here, it's kind of that gospel-y, mid-scooped versus kind of like pickups on a guitar. Sometimes you want that scooped, bright, or full mid-range sound. So it depends on the part, depends on, it's really a breathing instrument, and once you see it that way, it'll help you you don't have to know exactly what this one does. You just got to reach for it and be like, that's the flavor I was hearing. That's, it needs more overdrive. I need to really get into, find a way to get energy out of it, because it's not just going to do it for you. You got to get that stuff down and figure out what works for your hands. For example, when you hit the fast switch, there's books on this. Because if I'm doing this, and if I do it too early, for example, then I have another bar, and I got this annoying fast sound happening, and it just sounds like an old school organ that's broken or something like that. But if I do it too late, then I miss the energy. Where if I did that there, right, and it's ready for it. So you got to know when to hit that fast switch and when to turn it off. And sometimes it's a bunch, but it can work.
You've seen Alan here on the channel many times before, and you will see him a lot in the future because he is a talented resource that I rely on and that I use a lot, and you have the opportunity to use him as well. If you're looking for great training for some of your team at your church, if you're looking to update your rig at your church, if you're looking for tools when it comes to studios, Alan has a whole lot of solutions, all under his Comma Worship Solutions banner. He has his novel recording company. He has a worship training solution. He has a storytelling coaching solution. He offers vocal training. He offers song bundles where he'll actually record a lot of the backing tracks for you and your worship team. He also helps design church rigs, which he's amazing at doing. Today's video is just a great sample of what he's able to do to come in and train your people. He can do it on guitars, drums, vocals. He's a one-stop shop when it comes to training and amazing resources. So I invite you to use him. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do so. We're trying to build an amazing creative community. Like this video, share it. I can't wait to see you on the next one.